So this has been a concerted effort to undermine the right to vote, even to make it hard for people with disabilities to cast ballots. Well, what's the best way to repudiate that kind of underhanded, mean-spirited effort to deprive people of their votes? Get out and vote and make it clear we're not putting up with that. These laws are a blast from the Jim Crow past, and they have no place in 21st century America.
Well, every state is different because every state has their own laws. But in Missouri, and it's probably true for the other states as well, an identification is some recognized piece of paper that identifies that individual with the voting record so that the poll worker can feel confident in issuing that voter a ballot.
Well, a voter identification law, I would say, is when a citizen goes to vote, they have to show some type of proof of who they are.
Well, the idea is to try and make sure as best we can that the person who is showing up at the polling place on election day to cast a ballot is in fact the person who's entitled to do that.
There's been a push in the past several years to tighten that process. I think the thinking is they want to make sure there's no voter fraud in the system. Most people, especially those on my side of the aisle, the Democratic side of the aisle, would say it is a way to suppress minorities and poorer people from voting. If anybody in our society is not going to have that type of photo ID or where it's just easy to prove where you live, it is someone who maybe has some more economic challenges. I personally don't know it, but I've read enough on it, and I'm convinced that common sense and professionals who have studied this insist there is almost zero voter fraud at that polling place that even happens.
There's been a push in the state of Missouri as well as in other states to require not just a form of identification, but a photo ID. Now, those laws have generally been challenged because they tend to have a disproportionate adverse effect on minorities and particularly older individuals who maybe don't have the necessary documentation to obtain a photo ID. And then related to that is the fact there's almost no evidence in the state of Missouri or elsewhere that people who show up to vote at the polling place are not who they say they are. I think it's important for everyone to understand how important it is to vote, regardless of who you like or don't like. For someone to say, well, I didn't feel like voting today, so I didn't vote. If you don't exercise your right to vote, then I'm not sure you really have a right to complain about what's going on, whether it's in the city of St. Louis, Jefferson City, or in Washington, D.C. And for people who say, well, my vote doesn't count, it's just one vote. There are many instances in the course of history where one vote made a difference. Maybe not so much in Washington, D.C., but maybe on the local level. And there's an old saying about all politics are really local, because what happens in your neighborhood affects you directly. And so I would just encourage everyone, if you're eligible to register to vote, then by all means, register to vote.
That we as a society should have a goal to increase voter participation. People are cynical. People have, I'm sure there's 100 reasons why they don't vote, but I don't really understand any of them. I think that the responsibility to vote, the right to vote, the privilege to vote should be taken as a sacred duty by all citizens.